This is not okay. Let's talk about Ahmaud Arbery. For everyone who doesn't know, Ahmaud Arbery was a black man who was out for a jog, who was followed and killed by two men in Georgia, and this has been widely labeled as a hate crime. I'm not going to go into details here because there have been multiple videos that have surfaced of the situation in question, but what it really boils down to in my mind is discrimination and racism and how we as a society deal with it. When I initially saw the story, I saw it on Instagram. It was either on 6buzz or something along those lines. I think my reaction was the same to pretty much everybody who read about it or initially saw it. It was shock. There was a alleged video of Ahmaud Arbery loitering outside of somebody's garage and then going in and then leaving. I saw the video. You don't really see his face. You don't really know who is actually in that video. In fact, I didn't even really see a date or a timestamp on the video, so we don't even really know when the video was taken. It seemed as though these two men who killed this young man were using that video as a reason why they followed him and murdered him. It didn't make sense at all. They said that they thought that he was a robber, and so they followed him out and then they shot him, which again doesn't make any sense, because if you think you're following a robber or somebody who broke into your home, why would you kill them? Wouldn't you call the police? This young man, as far as I know, wasn't carrying anything. Like, he wasn't holding anything. So if he doesn't have anything, why would you think he stole something from your property? The pieces just don't make any sense. I recently found out that this murder happened months ago. Apparently this happened in January. I didn't even know that because the information that I saw came out in April. So it took almost a little, like 3 months, for information to finally start hitting popular media about this horrible, horrible crime. The ugly truth is, we know why that is. It's because of the racism and discrimination that is still prevalent in our society today. It just feels like the justice system had failed him when he had passed away. And I wrote a paper on something called personhood of the victim, and it was something that I hadn't read about previously because the schooling that I did was primarily focused on criminals and like how to punish people and all of those things, but nobody ever really talked about the victim. The only time where victims were actually spoken about was in restorative justice or in Aboriginal healing circles. Other than that, you never heard about the victim. You never heard about the victim's family. For those of you who don't know, in Canada, the victim's family can give, they're called victim impact statements at the sentencing hearings of people who have committed crimes against their loved one. Other than that, we don't really hear anything. So when things like this happen, where somebody is murdered, you don't hear about it for months. Charges and arrests aren't made until months after the fact. It's extremely disappointing and it's extremely worrying. I'm planning on having children someday. Do I really want to bring kids into a world where people can be murdered and the people that are supposed to protect those people don't care because of some reason, because of discrimination, because of racism, because of something? The reason I'm making this video is because in Georgia, the two men that murdered Ahmaud, they were charged with murder instead of hate crime. Because in Georgia, apparently hate crime doesn't exist. I dwell in the realm of feminism that pushes equality, specifically equality where multiculturalism and multiple ethnicities exist. I'm not talking about fake equality where you have companies that are mandated to have a certain percentage of their workforce be visible ethnic minorities or be African Americans or Canadian or African Canadians or Caribbean Canadians or so on and so forth. I'm talking about true equality where people don't take race as much into consideration as they already do. When I was an undergrad, we did look at studies where People who had ethnic sounding names wouldn't get called back as often as people with white passing names or Caucasian names, like that had the same resumes. How do we fix this as a society? That's a question that we all should be asking ourselves. We should all be striving to try and not see race as a determining factor when it comes to how we treat people and how we think about people, whether we become friends with them or whether we like marry them, when we want to apply for jobs or who we want to make ourselves acquainted with. I really hope that someday these race blinders that people have give way to compassion and give way to logical reasoning at some point. The fact that Georgia does not have hate crime as part of their laws is extremely worrisome. From my point of view, do I think that his family is actually going to receive the justice that they deserve? No. With all of these insane things that have been happening this year, we need to actually start thinking like rational, autonomous, intelligent human beings, because that is what we are. We have created these insanely complex societies that have systems of justice, different systems of justice in different parts of the world. We have created the internet. We have created all of these incredible tools that we can use to actually fix the issues that we have, but why haven't they been fixed? Even though we are the solution to our problems, we are also the cause of most of these issues. Tell me how we can have phones that can recognize our faces, but we cannot get rid of the issue of discrimination and racism in any sector. And by sector, I mean in the workplace, in our justice systems, in our social circles. As for Ahmaud Arbery, it angers me that the people that killed him were attempting to say that they thought he was a robber and they killed him for it. I'm going back to the same point, but if you see someone leave your garage as you come home, is it really your first thought to go and grab a rifle or a gun and follow that person and then shoot them and kill them? Is that really your first thought? This is what our society is, and this is what our world has come to. I just really hope that we can make strides in the future to be better. Because if we don't, what everybody is forgetting is that it's our children and their children and all of the generations that come after that have to deal with the world that we are creating and the world that we are perpetuating, the world that we are supporting. How do you feel about how the state of Georgia has been treating his death? How do you feel about how long it took for this issue to come to light? How do you feel about all of this? Do you live in Georgia? Like, is it just a different way of life? Tell me, explain to me. I want to know. If I've offended you in some way, I don't mean to. If you feel like it's not my place to be talking about these issues, that's completely fine. Everybody is entitled to an opinion, including myself. We need to get justice for Ahmaud. Thanks for watching.